Hello and welcome to our flip video lesson, Civilization along the Yellow and the Yangtze Rivers, lesson 4.13. Lesson 4.13 details, Human Odyssey reading pages 135 to 136, Student Guide Workbook pages 131 to 133, and just a quick note, at the top it says lesson 12 in your book. This is lesson 13, so it's 4.13, so those are the correct pages. Your OMS assignment is assessment 4.12, and we're talking about the Yellow River and the Yangtze River as reasons for ancient Chinese civilizations. So what are we learning about today? Our learning objectives. Oops, one too far. There we go. Identify why Chinese civilization developed near the Yellow and Yangtze Rivers. Identify on a map the modern countries through which the Yellow and Yangtze Rivers flow. And identify on a map the Yellow River, Yangtze River, and major physical features of East Asia. And then also, actually, that next one there, recognize examples of the ways people interact with change, with and change the environment. I'm sorry, I forgot to mark that one on there. Lesson introduction, civilization along the Yellow and the Yangtze. Like the ancient civilizations of Sumer, Egypt, and the Indus Valley, early civilization in China developed along rivers, in the valleys of the Huanghe or Yellow River in the north and the Yangtze in central China. These rivers flood regularly. The floods deposit rich soil for growing crops, but they can also be incredibly destructive. The warm climates allowed for 2 growing seasons, and rice could be cultivated in these areas. So now I'd like you to open your student guide to pages 132 and 133. There's not a lot of writing space on page 132, so you can kind of fit things in there. On your map, you're going to go ahead and fill in your map. So take a look at the map on page 133. This is labeled in your student guide on page 132 on the left-hand side. It asks you to label certain things. It says locate the following physical features. So you're going to want to label the Himalayas. You're going to want to label the Gobi Desert, the Yellow River and the Yangtze River, and then these X's here are where civilization started. Okay, the South Sea, South China Sea, and the East China Sea. Okay, so you can go ahead and pause this video if you need to do that, or you can do it on your own after the flip video, but make sure that your map is filled in on page 133. Describe the relative location of China. Now we're on page 132. There's answer these questions over on the left-hand side, page 132. This is where it's kind of small in there. So you can go ahead and write, or you can get a piece of paper to write on, or you can write in the sidebars. So describe the relative location of China. China is south of the Gobi, east of the Himalaya, north of South China Sea, and west of East China Sea. Remember, relative location is giving the basic north, south, east, west, the basic cardinal directions to describe where a location is. Exact location would be using latitude and longitude. Relative location is using those cardinal directions. Question number 2. Through what modern countries do the Yellow and Yangtze rivers flow? So this question's a bit tricky. These 2 rivers flow only through the modern nation of China. Okay, so they only flow through the modern nation of China, and you can see there on the map where those rivers flow. Question number 3. Describe the locations of the Yellow and Yangtze in terms of where they rise or where they begin and where they end. So the Yellow and Yangtze rise in the western mountains, and then they flow easterly to the coastal plains. Coastal means along the edge of the ocean. They empty into the Pacific Ocean. So just a side note, you see on this map here that you see the South China Sea, East China Sea, Yellow Sea. Those are all areas or arms of the Pacific Ocean. So the East China Sea is an arm of the Pacific Ocean. So they empty into the East China Sea, which is also the Pacific Ocean. Question number 4. What natural barrier would have isolated the ancient Chinese civilizations from the Indus Valley civilization? That would have been the Himalaya Mountains. And then question number 5. In what regions do Chinese civilizations first develop? The river valleys of the Yellow and the Yangtze. Okay, and you can see that's a great picture there of kind of that yellowy feel for the river. That's due to the soil in that area. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and watch a little video within the flip video. It's about 2.5 minutes long.
The mineral-rich soil of the Loess Plateau is incredibly fertile. People have lived here for thousands of years, hollowing their homes out of the soft soil. The caves might lack the glamour of Beijing, but people can survive here. Warm, secure, but best of all, well-fed. As a result of centuries of farming, the landscape has become scarred with thousands of water-worn gullies. But this spectacular erosion has had an unexpected benefit. The streams which drain the gullies carry the fertile yellow soil into the plateau's major river, known to the Han people as the mother of Chinese civilization. This is the Yellow River. Each year, the Yellow River carries billions of tons of sediment from the Loess Plateau eastwards to the crop fields of the Chinese heartland. Historically, the Chinese relationship with the river has been uneasy. Sediment building up on the riverbed has caused the Yellow River to burst its banks periodically, unleashing devastating floods, resulting in millions of deaths. But when tamed with dikes and channels, the river's bounty is legendary. Even today, half of China's wheat comes from the Yellow River floodplain.
And now we come to your reading pages. Make sure that you've read pages 135 to 136. Not very much reading for this lesson, but definitely some important information in there that you need to get to know. And then important vocabulary words to understand. The Huanghe River. The Huanghe River is also known as the Yellow River. So sometimes you'll see it advertised or labeled as the Yellow River, and sometimes you'll see it as Huanghe River. Just so you know, those are both the same river. Okay, cardinal directions are north, south, east, and west. Human environmental interaction is the term that we use for interactions between the human social system and the rest of the ecosystem. So basically, it's how humans interact with the environment around them. Okay, how they use or how they participate in the environment or the things around them. And then cultivate means to prepare and use land for crops or gardening. And here we come to our quote section. Nature thrives on patience, man on impatience. And that's said by Paul Bose. Thanks so much for joining me today. Remember, motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. Have a great day.